Hello, and welcome to Lamplighter. Today is March 7. Today we have finally worked our way through all the details of God's covenant with Israel, all the details of his promises, all the details of the possible curses, all the details of every law that he is expecting them to keep. And we see that it's quite a responsibility for the people to not only learn the law and keep the law, but even to pass that law along to future generations. So in today's reading, it's very important that we read this very carefully. I want to reiterate that because I think today's reading is one of the most significant sections of Scripture in the entire Old Testament. And here's why. Because even though it is the Old Testament, and I know we live under the New Testament covenant today, this is a vital picture that we must see of the God we serve. Because what we have here is a big summation of everything God is about, of everything God desires of his people then and his people even today. This is the most vivid illustration of God in his sovereignty, in his holiness, desiring to create for himself a holy nation. And so I urge you to read today's reading very carefully. It's a little bit longer than some of the others have been, but please take your time and read it very carefully. There are some very important things here that I hope to point out to you over the next several minutes. One is the reading starts with, once again, a renewal of the covenant, the people renewing their promise to God to be his people and to honor his word by being obedient to him. The comprehensive law is repeated for them. They are challenged once again to honor God through their obedience by their portion of the covenant keeping. They are to be his treasured possession. They are to be God's holy nation. And the question then becomes, if God is so free with his blessings, if God has promised that he's going to reward them and bless them over and over more than they can possibly imagine if they are obedient, then why do they fail? Why are they ever disobedient? Why would you ever turn away the blessings of God? But not so fast. Maybe we ought to back off for just a moment and ask ourselves the same question, because after all, God's nature is still the same. God has always been faithful to his promise, and God is still the same God for us as he was for them. God still makes promises today that he'll reward faithfulness and he'll shower his blessings upon those who are obedient. So maybe the bigger question for us to answer is this one. Why are we so often disobedient? Why do we fail so often? Isn't it great to know that we have a God who is patient with us, who is loving, who is willing to forgive, who is still striving to have a relationship with us and to build a covenant with us? Now, as we read in today's reading, God reiterates the fact that through their obedience, he will bless them with fruitfulness. He'll bless them with prosperity. I want to direct your attention to page 297 at the top. The Lord will establish you as his holy people, as he promised you on oath, if you keep the commands of the Lord your God and walk in his ways. Then all the peoples on earth will see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they will fear you. Whenever we live obediently, it is partially for our own good, but also so that people around us will see and recognize and honor our God as well. So God does promise fruitfulness. He promises prosperity for those who are obedient. But then there's a very detailed and a very chilling list of the curses that come with disobedience. Punishment, unfruitfulness, plagues, oppression, ruin, captivity, disease, dispersion, or being scattered abroad. All of these. In fact, God even says at one point, quote, you will be unsuccessful in everything you do, end quote. Those are some pretty strong words. Those are some pretty harsh promises. In fact, when you read through this list of punishments, the punishment of Israel for disobedience will rival the punishment God has already poured out upon Egypt Remember those plagues? Many things like that are promised as a curse to God's people who are disobedient. It is serious, serious business. And then when he starts to talk about dispersion, I want you to notice this paragraph on page 299, right in the middle of the page, curses of dispersion. This is so important. You who were as numerous as the stars in the sky, remember that promise way back to Abraham, will be left but few in number. Why? Because you did not obey the Lord. You did not obey the Lord your God, just as it pleased the Lord to make you prosper and increase in number, so it will please him to ruin and destroy you. You will be uprooted from the land you are entering to possess. So that promise of multitudes, that promise of land will be ripped away from those who are disobedient. Then the Lord will scatter you among all nations from one end of the earth to the other. Then you will worship other gods, gods of wood and stone, which neither you nor your fathers have known. Among those nations you will find, listen to this, you will find no repose, no resting place for the sole of your foot. There the Lord will give you an anxious mind, eyes weary with longing, and a despairing heart. You will live in constant suspense, filled with dread, both night and day, never sure of your life. In the morning you'll say, if only it were evening, and in the evening, if only it were morning, because of the terror that will fill your hearts and the sights that your eyes will see. Ooh, that just gives me a chill, doesn't it, you? God means business. He wants his people to be faithful. He wants them to be obedient. Now, God has kept his covenant. He takes this covenant seriously and expects his people to respond in kind. But even having said all of this, he wants to make sure they understand that forgiveness is always available for those who are penitent. When they do sin, there is hope because they can choose to come back to God. The covenant, he says, is really not all that difficult. It's simply about tuning your heart toward God and following his way. Now a choice is laid before them, a choice of life and prosperity or death and destruction. Let's read that together on page 301 under the section Life and Death and Covenant. Moses speaking says, "See, I set before you today life and prosperity, death and destruction. For I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commands, decrees, and laws. Then you will live and increase, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land you're entering to possess. But if your heart turns away and you are not obedient, and if you're drawn away to bow down to other gods and worship them, I declare to you this day that you will certainly be destroyed. You will not live long in the land you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. This day I call heaven and earth as witnesses against you that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life so that you and your children may live, and that you may love the Lord your God, listen to his voice, and hold fast to him. For the Lord is your life, and he will give you many years in the land he swore to give to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." There it is, all in a nutshell, tied back to the original promise. Moses, knowing that he's not going into the promised land with these people, says, I'm giving you a choice. God is giving you a choice, life or death. Seems pretty obvious which choice to make, doesn't it? Do you want blessings, he says, or curses? It's all up to you. You simply obey, or you choose not to obey. And then, as we get to the very end of our reading today, the covenant is confirmed with these words, "Be silent, O Israel, and listen. You have become the people of the Lord your God. Obey the Lord your God and follow his commands and decrees that I give you today." And then a ceremony follows where there are blessings and curses reiterated for the people to remember to take this business seriously. It is a longer reading, and I know that I've gone longer today in our time together. But I think this is so important. We must honor God. We must know His Word. We must study His Word. And more importantly, we must obey His Word. Isn't it great to be a lamplighter? His Word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. I hope you have a blessed day.